In basically any game with a resource system, a card that allows you to get an effect without using that resource system is dangerous. Among the zero-cost cards, card draw effects are even more dangerous. It's pretty easy to think of a completely busted free effect that lets you draw multiple cards, like Pot of Greed or Professor Oak. However, it's a little less obvious how broken zero-cost effects are that draw exactly one card. There are some examples that certainly are broken, or at least very, very powerful, such as Gitaxian Probe in Magic the Gathering or Upstart Goblin in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but there's also plenty of examples that are much less impactful. To start out with, it's worth taking a look at what advantage these simple cycling cards are providing, since they're not actually giving you any direct material advantage, like an extra card or an extra resource. Upstart Goblin was famed in Yu-Gi-Oh! For essentially giving you -1 to your deck size. Since this immediately traded itself in for another card in your deck for a negligible cost, it essentially cuts your deck size down by 1 for each copy, making it easier for you to draw the specific cards that you need. This is great for combo decks, and since most Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks tend to play out a bit like combo decks, Upstart Goblin was heavily played for years. Magic the Gathering is a less combo-focused game, but zero-cost card draw like Gitaxian Probe still provide plenty of other advantages. For one, it is a sorcery card type, it's a free spell, and it also gives you a +1 card into your graveyard after using it. As an added bonus on top of all of that, Gitaxian Probe also has an additional effect that lets you look at the opponent's hand, letting you know if you're safe to start a combo or commit to a big attack. Some decks were even able to take advantage of the card's minor life cost. While all of these advantages are nice, these cards do have some disadvantages as well. At the start of the game, these cards can make mulligans especially awkward. When you're deciding whether to keep a starting hand, you're selecting based on how that hand will perform in the first few turns of the game. Zero-mana cyclers in this starting hand are essentially a random, completely unknown card, which could be the land that you need to curve out perfectly, or it could be the most expensive card in your deck that is going to turn your hand into a complete brick. These are also an intermediate step before you draw the replacement card, and as an intermediate step, it can be interrupted. For example, if you're looking to draw a creature to play out to the board, even if that creature is right on top of your deck, your opponent can still stop your play for this turn with a Force of Negation. This intermediate step increases the range of disruption you can be hit by when you're trying to cycle through your deck. Zero-cost cyclers also disrupt ratios during deck building. Because of their early game unpredictability, you don't want to replace a whole bunch of your early game plays with these, but you also don't want to replace your late game high impact cards with cycling effects either. The more of your deck you're going to see in a given game, the more important this ratio balancing becomes, which is why this kind of effect has never been particularly strong in Wacross, as one example. So if we weigh the advantages against the disadvantages, is this class of card fundamentally broken? Well, not really. While Gitaxian Probe is banned in basically every format, Street Wraith, which provides fewer advantages past its cycling effect, and Mishra's Bauble, which delays the card draw by 1 turn, are both solid role players, but they're not overly powerful or widely played. Jar of Greed, which likewise delays its draw by a turn, has always been mostly ignored in Yu-Gi-Oh! Even the venerable Upstart Goblin has largely been phased out as deck space is increasingly filled with more selective card draw effects. Deck thinning alone is rarely enough for a card to see play unless the disparity between very high power cards and very low power card filler in a format is very wide. Anyone who has brought up deck thinning in the context of Magic the Gathering will know that while a few percentages here or there certainly doesn't hurt, it's a marginal effect that is always overshadowed by other advantages you're trying to get. Gitaxian Probe is a spell and it looks at the opponent's hand, and similarly, fetch lands are guaranteeing you perfect mana while providing a free shuffle effect. In both of these cases, deck thinning is a mostly irrelevant bonus that's added on top of cards that you're already playing for other reasons. Any kind of zero-cost effect always is going to have the danger of becoming far more powerful as the game develops, and pairing zero-cost card draw with an additional effect on top of that always has the potential to be dangerously powerful. However, zero-cost card draw on its own isn't fundamentally broken, and, in fact, if it's done right, it can even be a useful tool to unlock archetypes down the road, much like Mishra's Bauble did for Delirium decks. Best of luck on your cycling journey, and have a fantastic day.